Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! Under lock and key, the verdant velvet was tucked away, its destiny concealed within the shadows of the wardrobe. With anticipation trembling through his veins, Kaiser's hand stretched towards the shoulders, feeling the soft pile of nap against his palm. The purchase, a fortnight ago, nearly stopped his heart, and now, at long last, the time to wear it had arrived. All was still, save for the gentle purr of the AC and the inaudible heartbeat of time in the hallway, a solitary reminder of the outside world and reality. The temporary absence of Kaiser's companion created a sanctum. Her business trip was the catalyst for this clandestine escapade with an unknown material. He extracted himself from the casual confinement of his stay-at-home outfit, a daily friend for far too long. With each movement, the jumpsuit enveloped him like a warm embrace, climbing up his legs, hugging his hips, and settling on his shoulders. The seamless ascent of the zipper sewed the ensemble shut, cocooning its host. When Kaiser beheld his reflection in the armoire's full-length mirror, he was captivated. The person staring back at him wasn't Kaiser anymore. She was someone else entirely, someone he'd been longing to meet for years.
Lorelei,
he whispered, the name falling from his lips like a prayer. The jumpsuit hugged every curve, accentuating a figure he'd always tried to hide. The forest green color brought out flecks of gold in his brown eyes, and his shoulder-length brown hair framed his face in a way that suddenly seemed right. A chime from his laptop broke the spell. Kaiser, no, Lorelei, glanced at the clock. The team meeting was starting in 5 minutes. Panic fluttered in her chest. She should change, go back to being Kaiser, the reliable project manager everyone knew and respected. But as she looked in the mirror again, something shifted. Why couldn't Lorelei be respected too? With trembling fingers, she opened her makeup bag, rarely used but always close at hand. A light touch of mascara, a sweep of neutral eyeshadow, a dab of tinted lip balm. Nothing too dramatic, but enough to enhance the feminine features she'd always tried to downplay. The laptop chimed again. 1-minute warning. Lorelei took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. She could do this. It was just a video call, after all. She settled into her desk chair, adjusting the camera angle slightly, and clicked to join the meeting. "Good morning, everyone," she said, her voice softer than usual, but steady.
shall we get started?
There was a moment of silence, then a chorus of greetings. If anyone noticed anything different, they didn't mention it. The meeting proceeded as usual, discussing project timelines and client feedback. As Lorelei presented her portion of the updates, she felt a surge of confidence. The velvet jumpsuit was like armor, empowering her to speak with more authority than she'd ever felt as Kaiser. She gestured as she talked, the fabric moving with her, a constant reminder of who she truly was.
Great presentation, Kaiser,
her boss said as the meeting wrapped up.
I like the new look. Very professional.
Lorelei's heart soared. Thank you, she replied. I felt it was time for a change. As she closed her laptop, Lorelei leaned back in her chair, a smile playing at her lips. One meeting down, and the world hadn't ended. In fact, it felt like it was just beginning. Over the next few weeks, Lorelei grew bolder. She experimented with different hairstyles, learning to braid her brown locks or sweep them up into a sleek bun. She invested in more professional attire, blazers, blouses, and tailored slacks. but always kept the forest green velvet jumpsuit as her secret weapon for important presentations. Her colleagues adapted quickly, some stumbling over pronouns at first, but making genuine efforts to get it right. Lorelei's work improved too, her newfound confidence shining through in her projects and client interactions. One morning, as she prepared for a crucial meeting with a potential new client, Lorelei reached for the jumpsuit once again. As she zipped it up, she felt that same rush of empowerment she'd experienced on that first day. The client meeting was held in a virtual conference room, with team members joining from various locations. Lorelei took a deep breath before entering, reminding herself of how far she'd come. "Good morning, everyone," she said, her voice clear and confident. "Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to show you how our team can help take your business to the next level." As she launched into her presentation, Lorelei felt the familiar comfort of the velvet against her skin. She moved with grace and purpose, her brown hair neatly styled, her makeup subtle but polished. The client representatives leaned in, clearly engaged by her words and presence.
"I have to say,"
the client's CEO remarked as the presentation concluded,
"I'm impressed. Your team clearly has a strong grasp of our needs, and your delivery was exceptional, Lorelei. We'd be foolish not to move forward with this partnership."
Pride swelled in Lorelei's chest. "Thank you," she said. "We're thrilled to have the opportunity to work with you." As the meeting ended and congratulations poured in from her team, Lorelei sat back in her chair, a sense of accomplishment washing over her. She'd done it. Not just landed the client, but proven to herself and everyone else that she could be successful, truly successful, as her authentic self. The journey wasn't over, of course. There were still challenges to face, both personally and professionally. But as Lorelei ran her hand over the soft velvet of her jumpsuit, she knew she was ready to face whatever came next. In the months that followed, Lorelei's transition at work became more official. She scheduled a meeting with HR to discuss the company's policies and ensure a smooth process. To her relief, they were supportive and eager to help. "We want you to feel comfortable and respected in the workplace, Lorelei," the HR manager said. "Let's work together to make this transition as seamless as possible for you and your colleagues." They developed a plan to inform the broader company and clients about Lorelei's transition. Emails were crafted, sensitivity training was scheduled, and Lorelei felt a weight lifting from her shoulders with each step forward. The day of the company-wide announcement arrived, and Lorelei once again reached for her forest green velvet jumpsuit. It had become a talisman of sorts, a reminder of her strength and authenticity. She joined the all-hands meeting, her heart racing as she waited for the CEO to make the announcement. When he did, it was with warmth and respect.
"I'd like to take a moment to celebrate one of our team members," he began. "Many of you know her as Kaiser, but moving forward, we'll be addressing her as Lorelei. She has shown incredible courage in sharing her true self with us, and I expect everyone to treat her with the same respect and professionalism you always have. Lorelei, would you like to say a few words?" Lorelei stood, smoothing her jumpsuit as she faced her colleagues. "Thank you all for your support," she said, her voice steady despite her nerves. "This journey hasn't been easy, but your acceptance means the world to me. I'm excited to continue working with all of you as my authentic self." The chat box filled with messages of support and congratulations. Lorelei felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes, overwhelmed by the positive response. As life settled into a new normal, Lorelei found herself thriving. Her work continued to impress clients and colleagues alike, and she felt more comfortable in her own skin than she ever had before. One day, as she was leaving a particularly successful client meeting, a new team member approached her. "Lorelei,
the young woman said hesitantly. "I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you've been such an inspiration to me. Seeing you be so confident and successful while being true to yourself, it's given me the courage to be more open about my own identity at work." Lorelei felt a lump form in her throat. "Thank you," she said softly. "That means more to me than you know." As she headed back to her desk, Lorelei's hand brushed against the soft velvet of her jumpsuit. She smiled to herself, thinking of how far she'd come from that first trembling moment in front of the mirror. The jumpsuit was more than just a piece of clothing now. It was a symbol of her journey, a tangible reminder of the day she'd taken that first brave step towards being herself. And while she'd expanded her wardrobe considerably since then, the forest green velvet would always hold a special place in her heart. Lorelei sat down at her desk, smoothing the fabric over her legs. She had a presentation to prepare for next week, a big one, with the entire board of directors. As she opened her laptop, she made a mental note to have the jumpsuit dry cleaned. After all, it was her power outfit, and she intended to keep wearing it for many important moments to come. As she worked, Lorelei found herself reflecting on the changes in her life. Her relationship with her wife had evolved, growing stronger as they navigated this new chapter together. There had been difficult conversations and moments of uncertainty, but ultimately, their love had deepened through honesty and mutual support. At home, Lorelei had gradually transformed their shared spaces to reflect her true self. The closet that once hid her secret now proudly displayed an array of feminine clothing. The bathroom counter held an assortment of makeup and skincare products. Photos around the house were updated, showing Lorelei's evolution and the happy moments shared with loved ones who accepted her. Even her home office had undergone a metamorphosis. Gone were the stark, impersonal decorations of Kaiser's workspace. In their place, Lorelei had created a warm, inviting environment that nurtured her creativity and confidence. A small, potted plant sat on the windowsill, its vibrant green leaves reminiscent of her beloved jumpsuit. As the day wound down, Lorelei closed her laptop and stretched, feeling the soft velvet move with her. She walked to the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of wine to celebrate another successful week. Her phone buzzed with a text from her wife. "On my way home. Proud of you. Always. Love you." Lorelei smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. She typed back a quick reply, then set her phone aside, savoring the moment of contentment. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow through the windows. Lorelei moved to the living room, curling up on the couch with her wine. She ran her fingers over the velvet of her jumpsuit, marveling at how a single piece of clothing had sparked such a profound change in her life. As she sat there, Lorelei thought about the future. There would be more challenges, certainly. The world wasn't always kind to people like her, but she felt equipped to face whatever came her way. She had a supportive wife, accepting colleagues, and most importantly, she had herself, her true self, no longer hidden away. The sound of a key in the lock announced her wife's arrival. Lorelei stood, smoothing her jumpsuit and running a hand through her brown hair. As the door opened, she moved to greet her partner, a smile blooming on her face. "Welcome home," Lorelei said, enveloping her wife in a warm embrace. Her wife hugged her back tightly, then pulled away to look at her. "You're wearing the jumpsuit," she observed, a knowing smile on her face. "Big day," Lorelei nodded. "Every day feels big now," she admitted. "But in a good way. I feel like I'm finally living, you know?" Her wife's eyes softened. "I know," she said, reaching out to straighten the collar of the jumpsuit.
And I'm so glad I get to be part of it.
They moved to the kitchen together, falling into the comfortable routine of preparing dinner. As they worked side by side, Lorelai felt a deep sense of gratitude wash over her. This was what she had always wanted, to be herself, fully and completely, in every aspect of her life. Later that evening, as they sat on the couch watching a movie, Lorelai's wife turned to her.
"You know,"
she said, a thoughtful expression on her face, "I've been thinking, maybe it's time we planned a little celebration." Lorelai raised an eyebrow. "What kind of celebration?" "A recommitment ceremony," her wife replied, "to celebrate our relationship and your journey. We could invite our friends and family, the people who've supported us through all of this. What do you think?" Lorelai felt tears welling up in her eyes. "I think that sounds perfect," she whispered, leaning in to kiss her wife softly. As they began to plan the ceremony, Lorelai's thoughts drifted to her closet, where the forest green velvet jumpsuit hung. She knew exactly what she'd be wearing for this next big moment in her life. After all, it had been there from the beginning, a constant through her transformation. The day of the recommitment ceremony arrived, bright and clear. Lorelai stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her forest green velvet jumpsuit. Her brown hair was styled in elegant waves, framing her face perfectly. She applied her makeup with care, enhancing her features in a way that felt natural and true to herself. As she zipped up the jumpsuit, Lorelai took a deep breath, remembering that first day she'd put it on, how far she'd come since then, how much she'd grown. The fabric felt like a second skin now, comfortable and empowering. There was a knock at the door, and her wife's voice called out, "Are you ready, love?" Lorelai took one last look in the mirror, smiling at her reflection. "Yes," she called back. "I'm ready." She opened the door to find her wife waiting, looking stunning in a flowing dress. They took a moment to admire each other, both a little teary-eyed. "You look beautiful," her wife said softly, reaching out to touch the velvet of Lorelai's jumpsuit. "I'm so proud of you, and so happy to be on this journey with you." Lorelai leaned in, kissing her wife gently. "Thank you for standing by me through everything," she whispered. "I couldn't have done this without you." Hand in hand, they made their way to the backyard, where their closest friends and family had gathered. The space had been transformed with twinkling lights and colorful flowers, creating a magical atmosphere. As they walked down the makeshift aisle together, Lorelai felt a surge of joy and gratitude. She saw the smiling faces of her colleagues, the tearful pride in her parents' eyes, the unwavering support of her oldest friends. Each person there had played a role in her journey, accepting and encouraging her as she stepped into her true self. The ceremony was simple, but heartfelt. They exchanged new rings, symbols of their renewed commitment to each other and to the life they were building together. As they spoke their vows, Lorelai's voice was clear and confident, a far cry from the hesitant whisper of her first day in the jumpsuit. "I promise to continue growing with you," she said, looking into her wife's eyes, "to face whatever challenges come our way with honesty, love, and courage. Thank you for loving all of me, for supporting me as I became who I was always meant to be." Her wife's vows were equally moving, reaffirming her love and commitment to Lorelai through all the changes and challenges they'd faced. As the officiant pronounced them recommitted partners, the gathered crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Lorelai and her wife shared a kiss, both laughing and crying at the same time. The celebration that followed was joyous and relaxed. Lorelei moved among her guests, accepting hugs and well wishes, feeling completely at ease in her own skin. The velvet jumpsuit moved with her, a constant reminder of how far she'd come. At one point, she found herself in conversation with her boss, who had been instrumental in supporting her transition at work.
"I hope you know,"
he said, his voice sincere,
"that you've made our company a better place. Your courage has inspired others to be more authentic, more honest. We're lucky to have you."
Lorelei felt a warmth spread through her chest. "Thank you," she said. "That means more than I can express." As the evening wound down, Lorelei and her wife found a quiet moment alone. They stood at the edge of the yard, looking out at the twinkling lights and the stars above. "So," her wife said, a teasing note in her voice, "was it everything you hoped for?" Lorelei laughed softly, pulling her wife close. "It was more," she said. "So much more." She thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment. The years of hiding, of feeling trapped in a body and a life that didn't feel like her own. The fear and uncertainty of those first steps towards authenticity. The challenges and triumphs of transitioning at work and in her personal life. And through it all, the constant presence of the forest green velvet jumpsuit. From that first trembling moment in front of the mirror to this night of celebration, it had been there, a tangible reminder of her courage and her truth. Lorelei ran her hand over the soft fabric, feeling profoundly grateful for everything it represented. It wasn't just a piece of clothing. It was the key that had unlocked her true self, the armor that had given her the strength to face the world as Lorelei. As she stood there with her wife, surrounded by the love and support of their friends and family, Lorelei felt a deep sense of peace settle over her. This was who she was meant to be, who she had always been underneath it all. The forest green velvet jumpsuit would always hold a special place in her heart, a symbol of her transformation. But Lorelei knew that the real change had come from within. The jumpsuit had simply given her the courage to let that inner self shine through. As the night drew to a close, Lorelei and her wife said goodbye to their guests, thanking them for sharing in their special day. Once the last person had left, they stood in their backyard, surrounded by the remnants of the celebration. Lorelei took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of flowers and the lingering aroma of good food and wine. She felt her wife's arms wrap around her from behind, and she leaned back into the embrace. "What are you thinking?" her wife asked softly. Lorelei smiled, her hand absently stroking the velvet of her jumpsuit. "I'm thinking about how lucky I am," she replied. "To have you, to have all of this support, to finally be living as my true self." Her wife kissed her cheek. "We're the lucky ones," she said, "to have you in our lives, showing us what courage and authenticity really look like." They stood there for a while longer, savoring the moment. Eventually, they began to clean up, working together as they always had, but now with a renewed sense of partnership and understanding. As they got ready for bed that night, Lorelei carefully hung up the forest green velvet jumpsuit. She let her fingers linger on the fabric, remembering all the significant moments it had been a part of. "You know," her wife said, watching her from the bed, "I think that jumpsuit might be magical." Lorelei laughed, turning to face her. "What makes you say that?" Her wife shrugged, a soft smile on her face. "Look at everything that's happened since you first put it on. It's like it unlocked something in you.
helped you become who you were always meant to be. Lorelei considered this as she climbed into bed. Maybe you're right, she said, but I think the magic was always inside me. The jumpsuit just gave me permission to let it out. Her wife pulled her close, kissing her softly. Well, whatever it was, I'm grateful for it. And for you. As they settled into sleep, Lorelei felt a profound sense of contentment wash over her. She thought about the journey ahead, the continued growth at work, the deepening of relationships, the ongoing exploration of her identity. There would be challenges, certainly, but she felt ready to face them, and if she ever needed a boost of confidence, she knew exactly what to wear. The forest green velvet jumpsuit would always be there, a reminder of the day she took that first brave step towards becoming herself. Lorelei closed her eyes, a smile on her face. Tomorrow was a new day, full of possibilities, and she couldn't wait to see what it would bring.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!